Welcome to the Champions of Active Women podcast. In each episode, we share stories and experiences of active female role models and individuals who support the active pursuits of girls and women. Our goal is to encourage and inspire girls and women to be active for a lifetime, to reach their goals, and to break new barriers in sport and life. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative in the Sports Medicine Research Institute at the University of Kentucky. The mission of the Active Women's Health Initiative is to optimize health and promote physical activity and wellness for girls and women across the lifespan. If you enjoy this podcast, you can make a donation to the Active Women's Health Initiative at uky.networkforgood.com. Your contribution helps us empower all girls and women to find their inner athlete and become athletes for life. Meg Sutton started her career as a financial advisor with Hilliard Lyons in 2013, after 3 years coaching collegiate lacrosse and soccer at Ohio Wesleyan University. Meg is a graduate of Allegheny College in Meadville, PA, where she earned a degree in Managerial Economics and was a lacrosse student athlete. Since returning to Lexington, she has become involved in the Lexington community, serving on different boards. She currently serves on the board of the High Street YMCA, is a lacrosse coach at the Lexington School, and is the co-founder of the Sizzle Select Lacrosse Club. Meg was a member of the first ever girls lacrosse team in Lexington and continues to be active today by running, lifting, spinning, and chasing around her toddler. In her free time, she enjoys traveling, baking, and spending time with her husband, Kyle, and their daughter, Ellie. Welcome, Meg. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So sports have been part of your entire life, it looks like, from your bio. How would you describe the role of sports and physical activity in your life?
It's been a constant. I don't know if there's a period of time where I could remember where I wasn't playing a sport and being active. And it started from a very young age. My parents were super supportive and never pushed me in one direction and just kind of let me do what I wanted to do. And that led to a lot of driving around and a lot of different seasonal sports, but I wouldn't have changed it. It was truly one of the best parts of growing up, getting to do all those different things.
Tell me about the sports you played when you were younger.
So, obviously soccer is always a big one. So I started there, and then really liked basketball and tennis, and I was on the swim team every summer. So it just kind of morphed into a constant year of sports, but it was a different sport relatively every season. I did play some club soccer, but when I got to high school, I picked up lacrosse and dropped club soccer. So I just played all high school sports and really enjoyed the variety that it gave me and the chances to work with a lot of different team members and different coaches along the way.
So I'm really intrigued by this idea of playing lots of sports, right? And our culture right now seems to be set up to do just the opposite, right? To get kids into a sport early and stick with that sport for a long time. I know I'm trying to manage this with my own children now, and I'm wondering your perspectives on how being a multi-sport athlete really shaped you as an athlete and your love for sport and physical activity.
Yeah, so I have this conversation with my husband quite often. I feel like pushing kids one way it's great if they love it, but if there's other things they have in mind that they want to do, I don't want them to feel like they can't be a part of a sport because a coach wants them to specialize. And it's just one of those, it's the world we live in, unfortunately, where it's like, they have this tunnel vision of one sport, but I would love to see it morph back to where kids had the flexibility to do more than one. And I know in my youth coaching, that's something that I love. Multi-sport athletes. In my previous career coaching, I loved recruiting two-sport athletes because they brought such a different dynamic to the team.
You mentioned your parents earlier as supportive role models. Were they athletes themselves or just supported you in your pursuits?
My dad was an athlete. He played tennis growing up and in college. And then my mom just really supported us throughout the whole thing and let us do whatever our hearts desired, which was wonderful. I think now that I've got a daughter of my own, I'm going to get payback for all the driving that she did for us, but it'll be well worth it, I think.
Yeah. So were there any other people in your life who you feel like were role models or really influential in supporting your active lifestyle from a young age?
I'm sure there were plenty along the way. I mean, we had little soccer coaches. I know my dad coached me for one season with a fellow family friend. And, my grandmother's is still active to this day, and she's 92. So, it's just something that has always been a part of our family. So it was just kind of second nature.
One of the sports that you found and I think fell in love with is lacrosse, and it is still a relatively new sport compared to some of the others. And you shared with me that a fun fact for you is that you were on the first ever girls lacrosse team here in Lexington. What gave you the confidence, do you think, to try a new sport, whether it was lacrosse or any of the other new sports you tried?
So yeah, lacrosse, I mean, it was soccer, as we kind of talked about earlier, they kind of push you to specialize and you're looking at that. And I was on the club soccer circuit, and I think I just got burnt out, and I was looking for something to replace that spring season with. And my first year as playing lacrosse, I remember I wanted to play club soccer too, because I wasn't quite ready to give that up. I wasn't sure how lacrosse was going to go. And the coach I was playing for really was against, an athlete on their team playing for another sport at that time as well. And I found a coach who took myself and another team member off of the team we were on, because she was an AAU basketball player and I wanted to play lacrosse. And he said, come play for me. And so, I spent my final season just having fun in club soccer and getting to learn lacrosse and really pick that up. And I think I continued to pursue it because I wasn't burnout, and it was something new, and it had aspects of basketball and soccer. And so I got to kind of use all of the different skills between hand-eye coordination and running that I had done my whole life. So it didn't feel like I was stepping too far out of my comfort zone. It kind of felt like the right fit.
Yeah, it's interesting that all the other sports you had access to gave you the skills it sounds like you needed to feel like you could be successful and to be successful in this new sport.
Yes, absolutely.
So going a little farther into your life, then sports often have an impact outside of the sporting arena. And I'm wondering how sports have influenced your career, either in career choices or lessons that you've brought over from sport into your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously I played college lacrosse, and it took me a lot further than I ever thought, honestly. And, I ended up, coaching lacrosse right after graduation, and I actually got to coach a little soccer as well while I was there. So, I never really thought that was going to be my path for the long term. And it came to a close pretty quickly, but, it shaped it. It gave me the confidence to feel like, yeah, okay, I could try this and see how it goes. And it wasn't for me. So when I transitioned to my new career, I looked at it very similarly. I still have, there's still ways to be a leader within the firm that I'm in. And, I work on a team in a team setting. So I use those skills of, working as a team, as a team member, and one that, has to pull equal weight. And probably the biggest thing is my current career is very self-motivating. And, if I feel like if I hadn't had that background of an athlete to work hard and, kind of work towards what my goals were, I don't know if I would be as successful as I am right now, because it's definitely a work towards your goal and then continue on where I'm at. So I think the lessons of being an athlete transitioned really well into where I'm at now. And I would say that for any profession. I think being a student athlete, it gives you time management, it gives you problem solving and how to be creative and how to get things done. And I think that's huge attribute to any employer, not just even in the line of work that I'm in, but I think it's a positive, I think, when you're looking to get hired anywhere.
Yeah, regardless of that career field, those seem like they're lessons that really could apply to almost anything you're doing.
Yes.
So you're not a college coach anymore, but you are still coaching. You're coaching middle school girls and some club lacrosse, correct?
Yes, that's where I've decided to plant my flag as a after work hobby.
Yeah. So I'm assuming because it's an after work hobby, usually those are things that we love and are pretty passionate about. Why is this something that you've chosen to spend your time on?
So it's something that, again, kind of going back to, sports have been a part of my life for, since as long as I can remember. And I just remember when COVID happened and everything shut down last spring. I think it was the first time in my lifetime I didn't have some place to go or some sporting event to be at. And but looking at why I coach the youth, and I do lacrosse, but of course I would coach any sport at that age at this point. I feel there's a lot of, I don't just love, I mean, I love it, but I think it's really important for young girls to see females coaching them, because I think that gives them a sense of like, they've been where I've been in their shoes. I mean, you can have some great male coaches, but when the day is done, they've never really been a 7th grade girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that aspect to it. And then the youth, it's just, they still are so eager to learn and want to get better. It's just so refreshing to like see the smiling faces who just ask questions constantly and want to learn about the sport. And lacrosse took me a lot further, and it is still new to the area. And I just enjoy the game so much. I want to pass that on to the next generation. And that's, the majority of why I do it. But also I just think it's important for young girls to get to experience, one, a new sport because they don't know, but two, to, hopefully have a coach that will bring them some confidence and show them that they can be confident on and off the field, and then just teach them more about life lessons that you can kind of teach through lacrosse more so than the actual sport, because the X's and O's are important, but when the day is done, they're 12 and they just want someone to like help them get through some hard times or some, there's a lot of different reasons why kids come out.
So that brings me to one of my next questions, and thinking about, interacting with young girls. As the Active Women's Health Initiative, we're really trying to reach young girls and encourage and inspire them to be active for a lifetime through sports or through any way that they enjoy moving. I'm wondering what you see as the biggest challenges to doing that.
So, and I think in youth sports, I mean, I think we kind of see it. I think the specialization plays a role, but we do see numbers are down, and you wonder why that might be. And sometimes it's the confidence that they just don't have to like come out and try and be a part of a team. So obviously I think that's a challenge that a lot of girls, they just don't have the confidence. And part of why I love coaching youth is to build that confidence if they have the, want to get out there. And then it's going to sound so cliche, but looking at these 5th through 8th graders, I feel they're getting pressure from like the social media aspect, and there's just a lot of challenges there, where I think they have to have this perfect, they have to be perfect at it the first time they show up. And that's not the case. It takes hard work, and it takes time. And so I think that's a challenge, is them realizing there's a road to it, and it'll carry them a lot further if they work for it and not just have this snap of a finger and they're perfect at it. They've got to learn to work and have fun while enjoying the process.
And it might not look very pretty the first time, and that's okay, right? It's okay if you don't know how to do all the things. That's why we
I
practice, and
tell you
that's
what, the biggest habit I have to break is the I'm sorry every time they like drop a pass or they miss their teammate or they miss the goal. Like it's I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I was like, you don't have to apologize. Like you're learning. It's part of the process. It's okay. Like there's no reason to apologize for dropping the ball. It happens all the time.
yeah, you're out there doing your best. I mean, you can apologize if you're not giving your best, but if it's your best and it happens, there's zero need to apologize for being out in the field, right?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you, so those are some of the challenges. What are the big lessons that you hope they take away from participating in sport with you?
I just hope that whether they continue with lacrosse or basketball or soccer, whatever sport it is, I just hope they have fun with it because that's really the bottom line is like you don't want to be out there grinding at something you don't enjoy because then you do get defeated and you don't want to continue. And so um my hope is that they feel more confident, forget passing and catching a lacrosse ball, but just that they feel like they have some confidence walking into any classroom or walking into the new high school when they're freshmen, that they can hold their heads high and have some self confidence going into a new situation. And then also the ability to lift their teammates up. I always tell them to make their teammates look good because your teammates will make you look good. And so I really want them to recognize when their teammates do well, and I want them to lift their teammates up when they're not doing it's just that's what I hope, that there's some camaraderie there and they've got confidence and they feel like they have it's teammates for life really, and that no matter what happens, they're going to have each other's back. And I think that goes a long way off the field as well.
Yeah, I love that idea, learning early to kind of celebrate your own wins and build your own confidence, but also celebrate the wins of the girls and women around you, which, um, we're not always taught to do as women, to celebrate the wins of the other people around us.
I do have a every game tradition where we pass around a fun little stuffed animal, and whoever gets the animal of the gets that animal after the end of the game, they add an accessory to it. So by the end of the season, this poor little dog has earrings and necklaces and everything else. But the coach, myself and my other coach, will hand it out for the first game. But then we ask that the recipient on the next game stand up and explain why she's giving it to her teammate. And so they pass it along the rest of the season to who they feel is has earned it that game. And it's been around, I've done that for 8 years now, and the girls just the first practice of every season, they want to know what the animal's going to be.
I
And so
love that idea.
I don't think they realize in it that there's a lesson there, but we always ask them to, tell us why they want to select that teammate. And honestly, a lot of times it's someone who just cheered really loud on the bench. It doesn't have to be the leading scorer every game. It's something that they see in their teammate that they hadn't seen before. And that's really fun to see who they decide to give it to.
And then they have at the end of the year this collective, well-adorned animal that shows what they achieved together, which is just a beautiful picture for what teams can do.
And so hopefully that translates. They'll remember that more than they'll remember a win or a loss. And so I hope that also kind of gives them some joy going forward.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great story. So you are a role model to those young ladies, but you also have another young lady in your life, your daughter, a toddler. And one of the things we know from the academic literature is that parenthood changes physical activity for both moms and dads, and not in a positive way for a lot of people. So could you talk a little bit about that transition to parenthood and the impact or lack of an impact it had on your physical activity?
So it was definitely, I wouldn't say it like impacted so much as it just kind of altered my activity. I have a nice group of people I run with, and I stuck with running as long as I could. And it's just, and I feel like being active for myself is not just like for my, cardiovascular, for my, it's for my own sanity, really. I mean, that's something I enjoy. I've always enjoyed it. And not everyone enjoys it probably as much as I do, but it is something that I make time for in my day. It's something I do usually before the sun comes up, but for me, it's worth it. And so when I was pregnant and kind of had to start slowing down, it just kind of morphed into a different routine where instead of running, I was in the pool swimming and, just trying to remain active in the best way I could within the parameters that, my doctor was allowing. And for as active as I am and as a gym rat as I was, after the birth of my daughter, I took the 6 weeks and I took the time that the doctor recommended to recover and, come back when it was appropriate. I didn't push it. And, I think that actually made a huge difference. Once I was able to get back, I was able to come back a little bit faster because I did take the advice and I ceased all activity for 6 weeks other than walking the baby around, but it paid off in the long run.
Yeah, you're making me think about after I had both of my children. I remember like the slow walk right before I had my children, and then afterwards, really just walking was exercise for me. And for me, I know that was challenging to wrap my mind around. And I was slow, like I wasn't even walking fast, but it was challenging after my body had been through that physical feat of giving birth to a child. And so there's definitely some reframing that I know I had to do, and I imagine you did too.
Yes.
So what do you hope as your daughter looks up at you and sees an active role model, what do you hope she's learning?
I hope that's a tough question. I mean, obviously, like, as you know, with two, I feel like there's always eyes watching. And so, you always want to put best foot forward, but that's not going to be the case every day. So I hope she probably sees the struggle of, trying to get it all in a day so that she knows it doesn't just come easily. And it does take time to, make time to make that, do what you enjoy doing. But I put her in the stroller and we'll go for runs. And I hope that she can't remember them now, but hopefully when she's a little bit older, she'll, remember getting in the stroller and going for a run with mom, and that'll translate down the road. And, I hope she knows, like, we go on walks every afternoon, and I hope she looks back at some point and realizes, like, oh, that's activity. It doesn't have to be lifting weights. It doesn't have to be out running at 5 a.m. It can be any sort of activity. And so I just hope she looks up and realizes that her mom enjoys the process and enjoys being out and being active.
It really sounds like that's kind of the antithesis or the opposite of what you feel like your athletes are seeing on social media, right? That perfect picture versus this is what it really looks like. And it's, it's can be all kinds of movement, and it's not always easy, but it's good, and we're going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. And, I think for my athletes and my daughter, I hope they, and I think this took a long time for me to wrap my head around. And I think it came more after the birth of my daughter of, you have to listen to your body too. You can't you can't PR and you can't lift heavy weights every single day. It's not meant to be. And so taking a slow walk around the park, it might be just what your body needs that day. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Listen to your body. Powerful advice. So if we have parents, whether they have young kids or older kids, but a parent who is struggling with kind of fitting that label of a parent in with making time for themselves to be active, what advice or messages would you like to share with moms or dads who are working to be more active?
If you can't find time, for me, I find time, because I think it's more of like a mental release. It gives me some me time, but not everybody has that ability to be up early or stay up super late to do that. And, I think one thing would be find an activity that everybody enjoys, whether they're, it's throwing the toddler in a jogging stroller and just kind of going for a quick jog. You might not be by yourself, but you're out there and your kid is seeing that. And then, or if it's a family hike or just time at the park, out playing, I think there's ways as families to be active and, and if you're looking for that alone time, then as part of your workout plan or staying active, then it's just something, to carve out in your day. And whether that's 30 minutes of your hour lunch, you go on a walk, and then the other 30, you eat lunch, or if it's, you set your alarm 20 minutes earlier to like do a yoga class in your living room. I think there's ways to carve it out. It's just a matter of finding what works best for you and what fits with your schedule.
So being in athletics, do you have an active role model yourself? Do you have someone who you look to and say, wow, what a great role model for me, or someone that you're trying to emulate?
So I think this is a great question. And I don't know if there's any one person I'm trying to emulate. I'm a big supporter of the High Street YMCA here in town. And if you walk into there, I've done Pilates there for years, and you walk into that class and you've got people from their 80s to their 20s. And it's like, those are the everyday role models that I feel like you need to see out being active. Like if I could be like this 82-year-old who's on the elliptical every morning, like that's what I want to do. And my running group is the same way. We run from, there's all different ages. And I actually am in the same running group that my dad was in when he was a big runner. And some of his peers are still running. And so, they're out there, pounding the pavement 3 days a week, bright and early before the sun comes up. And it's like, man, I hope I can still do that. So I take my role models probably from over my everyday life, more so than I take from the media. But of course, there's some great ones out there, but they're more attainable, I feel like, if they're in your everyday life.
And it's almost like you've built this community around yourself that is, have some similar values in the running group or in the classes that you've been in.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I hope everyone can find that sense of community somewhere, whether it's running, walking, at the gym. And I even know, like, when we all kind of got sent home from the gym and we're all kind of isolated in our homes this past year, my Pilates class went on Zoom, and it was just so fun to get to see, those people that, were on the mat next to me 2 days a week for 4 years straight. And then just to kind of cease that connection was a little strange. So it is nice. And it's people from all different walks of life and all different age groups. So I think community can be whatever you make it. And so I hope everyone gets to experience that at some point.
So what do you think we've talked about a lot of things related to sports, family, activity. What do you think are the maybe most one or two important things we've talked about today?
I think finding something you enjoy, because the activity, as long as it's something you enjoy, you're going to continue to do it. If you don't like it, you're not going to stick with it. I think finding something you enjoy for the young girls, I hope they, find a sport that brings them not only confidence and newfound skill, but something that they enjoy doing as well, because I think that will carry them a lot further than not liking something. And then really, I think just finding time, to do what makes you happy, works as a family, and just to stay active and teach your kids that, being outside and just going for a quick walk, can really clear the mind and really be a fun family experience.
What final messages do you have for girls, women, or parents, families about being active and healthy?
It's to not fear the process, and not to, if you think, in 1 month you're going to, see these results that you are expecting, or if you think it's going to be easier in a month, chances are it's probably not, but don't give up on it. If you love it, keep going and enjoy the path to get to the goal. And then when you get to that goal, celebrate it. And when you get to the next goal, celebrate that, and just, before too long, you'll be right where you're supposed to be in the first place.
Anything else you'd like to share today?
I think we about covered it all, but just I think youth girls have some pressures out there, and I hope that they will silence them in their head and really just kind of power forward with what feels best for them.
Well, I thank you for your work in our community, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I really have enjoyed learning more about your initiative and all the work you do.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Champions of Active Women podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Active Women's Health Initiative and the Sports Medicine Research Institute within the College of Health Sciences at the University of Kentucky. This episode was produced by the Faculty Media Depot. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with your social networks, or simply tell a friend about us. If you want to help us sustain the Champions of Active Women podcast, donate to the Active Women's Health Initiative at uky.networkforgood.com. For up-to-date information about our initiative, follow us on social media at UKAWHI. Thank you for joining us as we empower all girls and women to become athletes for life.